Hello! So in this video I'm going to show you how to decorate the overlaid ring splints which are used to stabilise hypermobile joints in the finger or sometimes to splint after injuries. So here's one of them. They come in this skin colour. This is the only colour they come in, which to some people matches their skin tone but to other people doesn't. It matches my skin tone quite well, but I think it looks a bit medical and it's not really my style, and I wanted to decorate them in a fun way. So basically what I did a test one where I turned this into this. So what I've done is created a sort of marble effect on the ring splint, and I'm going to show you how I did that. And even if you don't want to create a faux marble effect, the first part of the video will just show you how to spray paint your ring splints in any colour you want. So here goes. So I've started decorating my ring splints, and this is the first stage, spraying them with a grey primer. Stage 2 is to spray over the grey primer with this blue colour. Okay, so I have finished spray painting the ring splints, and they're now blue all over. Let me just show you what it looks like. So, if you just wanted to paint your overlaid ring splints one colour, you would have applied the primer spray, then you would have applied the colour you wanted, and then what you would do next is get a clear top coat that's strong and waterproof, and a spray one's best, and then you would coat these with that. I would give it 2 or 3 coats, and at that point you're finished. But what I'm going to do is, as I showed you the little example I did, I'm going to paint the faux marble effect. So for that I'm going to use paints I've just got out of my paint set. So I've got a couple of tubes of gouache in primary blue and ultramarine, which is really similar to the colour on the ring splints that I sprayed them, and then I've got a black ink and a white ink. So basically I'm just going to get a bit of the paints out that I want to use, and what we're going to do here is essentially keep painting on these colours and combinations of these colours over multiple layers to give the sort of depth and uneven colour that you get from a natural surface like a marble or a natural stone. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that in more detail whilst I'm doing it. I'm just putting out some of the paints now. If you had acrylic paints you could use those. That would probably be more sensible than what I'm using, but I know this works. And I don't generally use acrylic paints because I tend to do illustration. So I usually use these gouache or inks. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is make a blue that's a bit darker than the colour that I'm using, the colour that I've used out of the spray paint, because I want to give it some sort of darker undertones and make it look less bright. So I'm going to go on with this darker blue, and I just randomly place it on the surface, avoiding doing too much in one area and then leaving gaps where there isn't any. And I'm doing the inside as well, although if this is going to take you a long time and you don't have the time, you can just not bother with the inside because it won't be visible whilst you're wearing them. But personally that would annoy me, so I'm doing it this way. Now I'm going to put on a slightly different darker blue that I'm going to mix, and I'm just going to go straight over the other colour. And blend it in a bit. I'm just showing you a close-up so you can see in a bit more detail what I've done. So now that I've finished that step, what I'm going to do next is paint on some lighter blues so that it mimics some of the different sort of minerals and things that make up the stone. So just like the other layer, I'm just painting this on fairly randomly, and I'm just literally splatting with quite a dry paintbrush with the colour on it, and that's it for that one. So here is the second stage of the marble painting, where I've added in the lighter blue tones, and I'm now going to do that for all the other ring splints. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. This is my gouache primary yellow, but you don't want to add any really bright colours because that doesn't look natural, so I'm just going to take a little bit of the yellow and mix it with some of the grey and white to produce a sort of yellowy grey colour here. And then I'm going to dry the brush out a bit and then start sponging that on. And you probably don't want to go quite so heavy with this. Little touches might be better. So for the next stage, I want to sort of blend these lighter yellow bits in and make them look a bit more subtle and as if they're underneath the stone or something. So I'm going to brush on a blue very similar to the base coat, but I'm going to make sure that I don't fully cover all those white bits I just added. I'm just toning them down a bit. To create a more natural look. Okay, now for the next step I'll create a lighter blue, but I'll still tone it down with a bit of grey because we don't want it too bright. That doesn't really look realistic. So I'll mix a bit of white in there. So I've got a lighter, slightly greyish blue here now with a bit of white in it, and I'm now going to brush that one on with my brush in the same way I've been doing, but I want this to look like areas in stone where there are sort of patches of another mineral, so I'm going to do sort of bigger areas with it than I have with some of the other colours I'm using. And it's a good excuse to fill in if you've got any gaps where you haven't added anything in one of the previous layers. You can use this to add a little bit of interest there now so that it doesn't look too flat. Sorry about that, that's the whistling kettle. Our kettle's broken. So that's one. Now, as before, I'm doing all the rest. So this is where we're up to now, after adding the light blue areas. I think the splint does look quite good now, and you could definitely just varnish over the top of these and just have it as a sort of multi-tonal natural blue. But I'm going to go a bit further and try and paint some little white veins on using a small brush. Okay, so when you're doing the veins, like before, I would suggest that you blend a little grey and or blue, I'm using both, into your white so that you can use a sort of off-white colour. If you use the bright white, it won't look right. So, for veins, you need to go on very lightly, almost just barely touch the splint, and they shouldn't be too sort of straight or neat. It's good to have them branching off or looking a bit uneven, as that's how they look in the natural stone. Here's a close-up of the veins I just painted, so that you can see what I've done a bit more clearly. And I think I've added one or two to the back there. Yeah, because that will still be visible. So now I do the same thing on the rest of the set. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix a grey, and then I'm going to add some little grey dots, but I'm not going to use the big brush this time. I don't want to alter them too much. I'm quite happy with how they look, but I'd like to add a little bit more variation. I'm quite happy with how these look now, so I think that I might leave it at that. Now when I did my test one, which is here, I added some gold, so I think I'll do the same thing with these. Now for the gold, I've got this can of metallic gold spray paint. This is the finished ring splint with the gold touches added. Now the final step is to coat them with a clear varnish to protect the paintwork.